Jeffrey. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How you doing, Ryan?
Not bad. So, what are we doing today? Oh, yeah, we're starting a new show, the
New
MMA
show.
30. So, what happens when we have an arm wrestling channel and that dabbles in MMA? Well, you start a new show. And that's what we're doing. I did used to do the Mastiffs MMA show, which was just me talking to the camera. But now you are a guy that is immersed in mixed martial arts, have a newfound interest in the sport. And that's what we're going to do every Friday at this time 2 p.m. Central and what is it, noon where you are?
Noon, yeah, noon in Pacific Standard Time.
So we're going to blab about MMA for 30 minutes. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys tune in. And we're going to avoid the subject of arm wrestling, even though I'm sure the arm wrestling fans will jump in the chat here at some point and start asking us for predictions for tomorrow's
I'm
event.
sure we can incorporate something that'll come up, but I think there's some really exciting things to do in this show now, and having I'll just speak on my behalf. But training with some elite guys and that have direct insight to almost every league in the world. I think we're going to get a lot of good guests on this. In fact, I know we're going to get a lot of good guests on here, and that's exciting because we're going to get a lot of insight and I think a lot of first-hand look into we'll go with the biggest organization, the UFC, and I know Ryan's got a lot of insight, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hardcore MMA fan. I do not have a lot of people in my circle that are hardcore MMA fans, but you are part of a gym now. You're meeting some guys, you're rubbing some elbow with some guys. And as you know, I did climb into the cage at one point.
Mhm.
Um, Twists and turns. So the story of my involvement in MMA way back in the day was, man, this was like early 2000s, 2002 through 2005, probably. And I got training, got cornering people. It was before the Ultimate Fighter premiere. So
Mhm.
by the time I had arm wrestled Travis Bagent in that super match in Halifax, I had already been in the cage and fought. It's because on that night was the night I remember that I arm wrestled Travis. And I went back to my hotel room where I watched the finale of the Ultimate Fighter, where the epic match took place between Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin.
Mhm.
Stephan Bonner recently passed, God
He
rest
did.
his soul. I
Yep.
did meet him, have an opportunity to meet him at the Arnold Classic when I was down there for arm wrestling, and got to chat with him a little bit. But yeah, big loss in the MMA community, and there's been
Absolutely.
others this year too.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's an awesome backstory. You fought one MMA match, and I'm going to fight in October. So I'm
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to see what that looks like. We'll be playing, hopefully, the footage of it here. We also have, uh, well, beyond that, I was cornering guys too for a long time. So in the
nice.
early days, I did training and I did cornering of a lot of fighters around the states, and we got lots of stories for the fans about the old days of fighting in barns and rolling out of the ring onto tables and beer lying everywhere and all that kind of stuff. But the sport has definitely evolved since the 90s when the UFC kicked off.
So I got a question for you. In your MMA match, what have you all trained in? Were you just a natural fighter? Did you have actual training in any specific discipline?
We cross trained everything. So everything from judo, wrestling, Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu, the whole thing.
What did you find the hardest kind of I don't want to say master, but to pick up on?
Uh, Man, I had about 3 or 4 good submissions in my repertoire, like really good ones that I could pretty much put on from any position. I had really good hands, like I could box really well. Kicks, knees. I would say that the only thing that I found challenging is maintaining a level of conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's first and foremost with any fighter. And I noticed, with my first, I guess it's going back a month already since I started, but really started going hard every day. The last 2 weeks is conditioning is so key, but it is amazing how fast your body. You can feel it coming along at a pretty fast pace. So it'll be interesting how fast it gets where it needs to be. But yeah, conditioning is. I mean, it's incredibly hard to do that. It doesn't take much. I mean, I was doing 2-minute rounds of jujitsu, and fuck me, I was like suck and win bad.
That will kill you the worst. So I found, like you, I always got way more tired when I was wrestling, which I don't think anyone will argue with me about. But man, I miss that sport so much. But I'm a huge fan and a hardcore. Like, I remember walking around the Arnold Classic back in the early, 2001, the first year they let Canadians in. And it was in Columbus, Ohio, which happens to be the hometown of the Hammer House. If everyone remembers the Hammer House, that's Mark Coleman's old gym.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just walking around, and nobody knew he wasn't getting stopped by anybody. And I grabbed him and got a picture with him and chatted with him for a little bit. And the crazy thing is that we talked about Stephen Bonner, we talked about Mark Coleman, and now we have a situation coming up here at this next UFC where Shogun is fighting his last fight. Can you believe that guy is still fighting?
So I used to, I followed UFC and MMA religiously from the beginning to about UFC 200, and I haven't really kept up with it lately. So most of these guys are new to me, but Shogun's a guy that's been around forever, fought in a million fights, fought Pride. He was a great Pride fighter and did quite well when he came over to the UFC. And I did not know that this is his last fight. Is that what he's saying?
This is the retirement fight. Yeah.
Nice.
Shogun's retirement fight. And
what's he, 42, 43?
Well, there's two crazy things going on here, right? So the fact is, like, Shogun is got to be roughly that age. But then you take Glover Teixeira,
and he's 43
for the title.
Yes.
At 43,
and still fighting at an elite level. Like, he still looks very, very good. Like, he is an incredible striker. So yeah, that's gonna be a great match. And yeah, looking forward to seeing Shogun go out and see what he can do.
And it's a light heavyweight. It's the headliner of the prelims, so everyone's going to get to see it. It's going to be on TV. Warren Kernot, how you doing, brother? So headliner of the prelims means on free TV. Everyone gets to see it. Shogun's fighting in Brazil. He's a minus 205 underdog against Potiera, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but Shogun's probably going to be an underdog against anybody in the top 20 right now.
I was just going to say that. I think he'll be in it. Yeah. When you get to that age, unless you're Randy Couture, you're an underdog.
Well, even Randy was the underdog, but he kept winning. That's the problem. That's
was he a betting underdog or just kind of a consensus? He's the underdog.
Betting underdog. Betting. All these things are based on sports book stuff. So he's the betting underdog. So that's the upcoming one. Before we get into the rest of that card, though, and you know what? I think Shogun probably will have a performance of his career and pull one more win. It's a winnable fight for him. He's not a massive underdog.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Well, I think that's going to be the fun thing of doing this show is get reestablished with who these guys are, all these fighters, relearning kind of all these new faces, because there's a lot of bad dudes out there right now. And one of the things I've noticed is all these fighters, these Dagestani fighters that are coming up, boy, they're killers.
Well, they are, man. You got that beard and those cauliflower ears. You stay away from that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let's chat about, let's just touch on Sean Strickland last weekend. What do you think?
Well, so I know who Sean Strickland is. I've watched his fights before. Like I said, I haven't kept up on him, so I couldn't really remember what he's all done. But when he first come out, I didn't like his style. It's kind of that Philly shell type style, but his head was really high. And I think anybody knows there's only a handful of fighters that can master that style. It wasn't even a good style. Like, he was doing it well. It was a weird style. His head was really high. And I thought, fuck, he's going to get knocked out. Because he kind of had that, coming in with his right shoulder blade, that Philly shell type style. Who can we think that's really good at that? Nate Diaz kind of uses it, but he keeps his chin. And of course, the one and only Floyd Mayweather's a master at it. But he really keeps his head back and his chin down when he's using it. And then Bernard Hopkins is another guy I can think of that used the Philly shell style. But when he came out there, his head was really high, and I thought there's no way he's winning this fight. And I think the first two rounds, is it Imanov or Imanov or
Imanov?
Like, he looked pretty good, and I didn't think Strickland was going to last two rounds. But I think with his style, I think he utilized like prioritizing his location over his punch, which is extremely important, and not his punch over his location. And I think that's what got him through. And and I think in the last 3 rounds, he took it to Imanov for sure. So
and he got a
when he first came out, I didn't think he was going to last very long, but.
Well, and he got a decision after being very vocally outspoken about how crappy the judging has been lately. And when he won the fight, he went over and thanked the judges for the decision.
Yeah. So.
And had a lot of good things to say because he is one of the most outspoken people in the world. And one of the
I've seen that recently. I did see some things that he's been. I think he was even pretty outspoken about Dana and his wife incident there. Didn't he have something to say about that?
Oh,
lots or was that maybe that was Dustin Poirier had something to say. I can't remember.
Well, a lot of people didn't touch it, right? A lot of people just did not touch it, and they got called out on it. A lot of the big podcasts, I mean, the most outspoken guy in the world about it is probably Ariel Helwani, host of the MMA Hour, which, by the way, is 4 hours and 3 times a week this week. So who has 12 hours to watch an MMA podcast? I don't know. I guess some people do. But for me to find 12 hours to sit down and listen to that, that's a lot, man. So, but you want to touch on the Dana White thing? Because I mean, everyone else has, and we're just starting, so we might as well regurgitate some old news at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you say about it? Like, I mean, his wife hit him, he hits her back, and I mean, I just don't. In my opinion, you don't hit a woman, but what do you?
Well, no, you don't. But what do you do when you move forward, right? So yeah, he did it. It was awful. He shouldn't have done it. He moved forward in the only way that he could move forward, which is taking full responsibility.
And he did, yeah.
He'll live with it for the rest of his life. And
I like what he said. Like, yeah, you hit it right on the head there. And I like what he said. He says, like, I think Dustin Poirier was saying, like, what he didn't know what repercussions were going to come of this, but I think this is going to stay with him forever, and he's going to be seen with that. And that, I think that is the repercussion of it. And it wasn't a good look, but I think he handled it the right way, and
here we are.
And
here we are, where they accidentally put a banner. Oh, not going there, Warren. Not going there, buddy.
What did he say?
How many times can she hit you before you react? The answer is as many as she wants, because you always have a way out. Now, where was I going with this? Oh, T-Mobile. It was a really nice deflection and really took care of some, moved the narrative past that when they accidentally dropped the banner on the side of the building that advertised John Jones versus Cyril Gane.
Oh, really?
That's how that fight was announced. During the event at the Apex, that banner got dropped, and he's like, I wasn't even ready to be announced yet. But yeah, the huge banner. Somebody got called up to the office on Monday morning and said, what the hell are you doing? But that's how the fight got announced, was someone accidentally put it on the marquee at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas.
Oh, boy.
So
Interesting. So, yeah, I really don't have a lot to say about it. I mean, fucking Dana White will handle it and move forward. And, you know, I think the sad thing is that shit happens there every single day that we'll never hear of because they're not celebrities. And it's a sad world when you see that go on. He owned it. He's going to live with it. And I guess it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It sure is. Yeah. Moving on, though, we just mentioned John and Cyril, but in the same breath, you got to consider the fact that because that was announced, we also got the announcement that Francis Ngannou is no longer with the UFC.
Yeah. There's some interesting opinions on that. Of course, I don't know. This is one of my things where I haven't followed it a whole lot. I mean, of course, I know what Francis Ngannou is. I followed him. I've watched some of those pay-per-views I definitely bought. But there seems to be a lot of displeasure over some of these contract negotiations with the UFC. I see a lot of people. I mean, Demetrius Johnson just made a post the other day about his displeasure about only what his earnings were, and I'm not sure what all the negotiations were between Francis and the UFC, but yeah.
Well, there's a couple things, right? So Mighty Mouse definitely should have been unhappy with his pay. Sub six figures.
So here, if I was any given fighter in the UFC, I'd be fucking pissed with what they did with CM Punk and James Toney. When you got a guy like Demetrius who's put his life and guts into fighting, making $20,000 to win and 20 to show, and you bring a guy in like CM Punk who gets fucking destroyed at $500,000.
Well, now you're talking about things like Jake Paul.
Yeah, well, but Jake, where are you going with that? I'm just curious because Jake Paul.
Well, hey, where I'm going with it isn't the same place we were 6 months ago. Because until we realized that, hey, this guy can actually box.
Yeah.
We treated him like he was a gimmick.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But I mean, that dude is fucking taking that shit legitimately serious. And I think I couldn't stand him at first. And like now I'm sitting back and like, good on you, man. This is a YouTuber come in and he's putting his heart and soul. Like this fucker wants to box. I don't like the fact that he's taking on 40-year-old retired MMA guys. And I'm glad that he's now signed that fight with Tyson Fury. Is it
not Tyson Fury?
Tommy Fury. Sorry,
Tommy's a bum.
Pardon me.
I think it's a step down. I think.
Do you really?
I see. Yeah.
And and you would know more because again, I haven't followed that closely, and this is why I'm happy we're doing this. It's going to give me some time to really sit down and educate myself again on these fighters. But I thought maybe Tommy was a little bit more of a qualified boxer than a 45-year-old Anderson Silva. I don't know.
Here's the problem. Okay. Jake beating Anderson has now moved the Nate Diaz's of the world and the Tommy Furies of the world into fights that should no longer be considered for Jake Paul. It is interesting that he signed with PFL and they're talking about one MMA fight and one boxing match. Mm-hmm. That being Nate Diaz versus Jake. I will want
1-1 for the two of them.
Well, they're talking about having one of each, an MMA fight and a boxing.
With Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nate Diaz would fight him MMA and in just boxing.
Yes. That's what they're talking about. But the Tommy Fury fight obviously happens first. A lot of people don't believe Tommy will show up for the fight. I'm one of them. I don't think the fight will materialize. If it does, I think Jake will embarrass him.
It's a good point that you say that because I know I can't remember which Jake Paul. Maybe it was the first fight against who was the UFC the welterweight champ there for a while that he boxed with. So it slipped my mind. The black guy.
Oh, you're talking about Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, Tyron. I think the first fight wasn't Tommy on that undercard.
I don't recall.
And I think he was, and I remember watching him, and I wasn't overly impressed.
Watch the second one, man, and watch the progression that he's done throughout his career. Like he is getting better and better and better. And now there's a rumor that Logan's.
Who are you talking about?
Are we talking about Tyron Woodley?
No, I'm talking about Tommy Fury. Didn't look impressive.
Oh geez, I didn't. If he was on that undercard, I didn't even pay attention.
Yeah, he fought somebody on that undercard, and I can't remember who it was, but he didn't. He didn't look very impressive.
That was back when this was Triller, and Triller pissed me off so much because Phil Woody, how you doing, brother? Triller was such a boring ass event where you had a concert going on in between fights, and it was like a 6-hour event for 4 fights.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fought on an undercard, and he didn't. I don't know. He didn't overly impress me for all the hype around the Fury name, I guess.
Well, I mean, apparently they're adopted siblings, so the genetics doesn't run through. But
gotcha.
There are rumors, of course, of Tyson Fury now going on to fight Ngannou.
Seen that.
There are rumors that Logan Paul's going to fight Mike Tyson. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. If it's the
See, I
same
don't.
Tyson, if Tyson shows up in the shape that he fought Roy Jones in, I think we got a good fight. I think Tyson probably wins. Hopefully, he doesn't pull his punches.
I have no idea how to evaluate any of these fights because the only thing I have of Logan Paul is his fight with Floyd Mayweather, which looks like, but I mean, is Floyd doing this? I mean, is what Floyd is there, right? Like, how do you? I don't even know how to judge it.
Well, there's one undeniable thing. Logan is an athlete,
Yeah, they both are.
and they take this very seriously.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And I used to argue with my kid about this all the time because he loves the Paul brothers and like they're fucking bums. And I've taken that right back. I said these guys are legit fighters, whether they like them or hate them, they are taking this seriously. And yeah. So I don't know if I like that though. I'm like, fuck. I mean, I don't know. Mike Tyson's 55 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked pretty good when he fought Roy Jones. For sure he did, but I don't know, man. I leave it where it needs to stay, and that's in the past. Like Mike Tyson's, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer now. I don't know, man. He doesn't even. I don't know why he'd even take that fight. I want to see these guys fight legit fighters in their own weight class, their own age group, and see where they go with it. And I don't even know who that is in the boxing world anymore.
Well, let's talk about this fight card coming up this weekend, and then we can start definitely right at the like we already kind of touched on Shogun, but right at the top of the order, we got light heavyweights on the main card. We're talking here. So Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker, with Johnny Walker as the favorite. Johnny Walker being Brazilian, Paul Craig from the UK, and man, I got some thoughts on this one, but I'd like to hear yours.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll be honest with you. A lot of these I don't know a lot about these fighters because I have not followed it. So I know I've seen Johnny Walker fight. Well, I'll be honest with you, Ryan, I cannot speak intelligently on it because I just have not. So I'm going to have to just hear what you have to say and get my homework in on these guys.
Well, Johnny Walker's the favorite. He's ranked 12. Paul Craig's ranked 9. Paul is primarily he's a really good jiu-jitsu guy. Mm-hmm. But then again, they say Johnny Walker could be the jiu-jitsu guy. The striking is where this fight's going to be determined, I think. But I would take the underdog in this one, and that's Paul Craig. I definitely think he is coming off an injury. He's got some stuff to prove. He could be in title contention at some point in the very near future. If he
what weight class is this?
Light heavyweight, 205.
And who's the current champ?
It's about to be determined.
That's the Glover Teixeira, right.
Yeah.
On the same card. Fair enough.
It is vacant, and we got.
Why is it vacant?
Because we had Ankalaev versus Blachowicz go to a draw. And then the same night, Dana White booked Johnny Walker. Or no, pardon me, not Johnny Walker. He booked Glover and Jamal Hill. And then Anthony Smith somehow got in there as the alternate. So Anthony Smith has gone down, weighed in as the alternate fighter. But he also helped Jamal Hill train. So that's interesting.
Anthony Smith was dynamic.
But you're probably going to see, if I were a betting man, you might see an eliminator between Paul Craig or Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith on who gets the next shot, because I don't think it's going to go to Ankalaev. I do not think Blachowicz will get it, and Yuri Prochazka is out for a long time.
Interesting.
But Anthony Smith could jump the whole queue and get the winner of this fight in a title shot. The one thing we won't get into the main event yet, but this one definitely has some title implications, and Paul Craig could be close with an impressive win. I think he could move into title contention.
And he's ranked number 9 right now, or number 12?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Yeah. So either guy could move in.
Interesting.
We got women's flyweight, and this is Lauren Murphy from the United States. Jessica Andrade is the heavy favorite in this one. She's number 6. Lauren Murphy's number 4. What about this one, Jeffrey?
Well, you're going to have to follow you because I don't know either one of these fighters right now.
Andrade is going to win the fight. That's my thoughts.
And they're fighting in which ladies division?
This is flyweight.
And who's the current champ? That is
flyweight is
see, fill me in. So what? The Rose Namajunas and all those guys.
Rose Namajunas, yeah.
Is she still a champion or no?
She is not.
She lost. Okay.
Yeah.
And Julia Pena, was she?
She lost in the rematch to oh, the names are losing. I'm losing all the names here, buddy.
Well, we get to discuss it.
We'll be talking about it later. But we got the next one on the card is Neil Magny versus Gilbert Burns.
Okay, so these guys I have a little bit more. Neil Magny, he came from the Ultimate. So Valentina Shevchenko is the champion of that class.
Shevchenko, yeah.
Shevchenko?
She's a killer.
Yeah, she is a killer, yeah.
Zhang Weili is going to be the next one to challenge her, I think, from coming up from the lower division.
Right.
But we'll see. Because Weili beat Rose for her belt. Or no, she didn't beat Rose. Someone else beat Rose, and then Weili beat that girl. Now, Rose and her probably need to have another match at some point, but we don't know if it's going to happen right away or not.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So Neil Magny, he came from the Ultimate Fighter, right?
A long time ago, and Neil Magny is the winningest fighter in UFC history.
Really?
Yeah, he has fought a lot.
And I don't think he's never fought for a title, I don't think.
I don't believe he has fought for a title. He is sitting at number 12, and he's fighting Gilbert Burns. Now, this is another one where it's a huge underdog situation, and Neil is the underdog because Gilbert Burns, we know, is a killer, and he's right there in that top.
Gilbert Burns has been around for a while, hasn't he?
Gilbert Burns?
Yeah.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, he's been around for. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, he had a hell of a fight with Hamzat.
Yeah.
So it's.
Is he a wrestler primarily, from what I remember?
Burns, jiu-jitsu guy, but he can strike like with the best of them. Yeah.
Cool. That'll be a good fight.
It will be a good fight. I think Gilbert Burns is going to win it. And then we got Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. I'm going to test your knowledge here. They're both champs. The odds have been adjusted since I looked at this, and they're about even. How many times these guys fought, Jeff?
Oh, fuck. In the UFC? I'm going to give them each 3 fights. Once? Twice? 3? 4?
4 times. This will be the 4th fight. This will be the 4th time. So you're right. They fought 3 times. And hopefully this is the quadrilogy, they're calling it.
And what's the score at to?
I think it's 1-1 and a draw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But this will be it.
I seen the advertisement on it. It's the 4th time they're fighting. Like it's that's insane. You don't see that very often. Can you think of another UFC fight where they've done it 4 times?
I can only think of trilogies.
I guess Chocolatell and Tito fought 4 times, but one
3 times. They fought 3 times.
Oh, didn't they fight one of 3?
One of them was outside.
Twice in the UFC, one outside.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have, I think the only 4th one we're going to see is probably Dustin Poirier versus Conor at some point. Maybe.
Think so?
Maybe. We'll see. I'm going to say Moreno pulls it off.
I was going to go with Brandon too.
But I wouldn't be surprised either way. So we got
that's the co-main event?
That's the co.
Cool.
Flyweight title. And then we've got, of course, the main event. Glover versus Jamal Hill.
I got to root for Glover. I mean, the guy's been around forever. I love his style of fighting. In his 40s. Got to root for him. I don't know if he can do it, though.
I'm definitely cheering for him.
Yeah.
I want him to win. and then Anthony Smith will come in and have that rematch with him, which is, like Glover beat the shit out of Anthony Smith.
He did.
Once Anthony Smith got gassed, that was it. Like,
Yeah.
And that was one of the fights where, like, holy shit, he shouldn't have won that. And then he had another one of those fights where, like, oh, he shouldn't have won that.
The Anthony Smith fight might have impressed me the most because I did see that fight, and Anthony Smith looked really fucking good. And I thought he was going to be the one to take John Jones out. And yeah, I was surprised to see that Glover did so well.
Well, there's a handful of fighters that gave John real problems.
Yeah, who's the last one? I can't think of it. Or I don't even think didn't it go to a decision? And I don't think John won that fight, to be honest with you.
There was a few.
He won it, but I don't think he should have.
There was 3 or 4 decisions that I can think of at least four decisions where John shouldn't have. Well, it was questionable on who won, but he got away with it.
The one against Thiago Santos.
Santos.
That's the one that I didn't give him. I don't know if I was the judge, I would have.
So now you got John moving up. Like, okay, I'm going to say Glover wins, but Jamal Hill, I hear lots of cool things about. But before we get off here, because we're at our time, I want to say that Iowa would pick Cyril Gahn to spoil the party.
That's your prediction?
That's my prediction. That's
my
ways away.
John Jones never fights again in the UFC.
The fight is signed, man. It's an 8.
That's still my prediction.
Oh, I think you're wrong on that one.
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to stick to that prediction.
Okay.
He just signed an 8 fight deal. I get it. And the fight signed, but I'm going to go with the prediction that he never fights again in the UFC.
Here's the deal. So if John Jones, like that Cyril Gahn, John Jones match, you can basically unplug the opponent to Jones and put 5 other guys in there, and the fight's just as big. But if you remove John Jones, it's not even a main event worthy anymore.
If they do fight, even though it's not right, I'm going to give it to Cyril as well. I don't. But John Jones has got a ridiculously hard style to fight against. Like anybody who's got an 84-inch.
Here's the argument. Francis Ngannou controlled the wrestling with Cyril Gahn. A non-wrestler controlled Cyril Gahn with grappling. John Jones should be able to do that pretty easily against that guy. You're thinking Gustafsson, Warren. Gustafsson's the other guy that John should have lost the decision to.
I still would have gave John the victory there, though. If I was a judge, he would have. It was a fucking fantastic fight. Don't get me wrong, but I did see John winning that fight.
And everyone says John Jones is undefeated. That is not true.
Well, he lost to Matt Hamill.
He lost to Matt Hamill by disqualification.
Yes.
12-6 elbows.
Yep.
All right, my man. This is our first show, and we're going to try to do this every week.
Awesome.
Next week, we will unpack the happenings of the weekend.
And
so make sure you buy that pay-per-view or steal that pay-per-view, whatever.
I'll be buying it for sure. So,
and I will be buying it and watching it, much to my wife's dismay. And we will touch base about it all next week.
Cool.
Hey, thanks for watching, Jay. Thanks for tuning in.
Cool. I look forward to doing this more, Ryan. I am actually headed to the gym right now to get wrapped up a bit.
All right. Don't get twisted.
It's a plan.